All right. Here we go, everybody. How's it going? Chuck Holton here. And I'm coming to you from my hotel room in the Dead Sea of Jordan on the Jordanian side. We had a real quick weekend trip to Petra, and I want to tell you a little bit about how that went. I'm gonna move this table, maybe not. Yeah. Okay. There, I can sit back a little bit. Yeah, I put, if you wanted to see the lights from last night's hotel, you can go see a picture of them on my chuckholton.com page. I didn't do a live about it because they only left them on for a short period of time, and it was really dark, so it wouldn't have showed up very well. Don't mess with me on the no audio thing. Volume is low. Okay. Let's see here. We'll make the volume higher. How's that? Input. Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, there we go. Audio's higher. Done. I have to tone it down when I go live on Newsmax or CBN. We have to tamp it down a lot. So when I go live on YouTube, it's too low sometimes. That's the way it goes. Anyway, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about how it went in Petra. We had a real good time, really enjoyed ourselves there. As a matter of fact, I might have some video of that. Let me see if this... Oh, I got to take studio mode off. And I got to go here. And then I realize this is too big, so I got to make this smaller. Wow, it's way too big. There we go. This will give you an idea what that looks like.
Aren't you bored, Oscar?
This is just incredible.
I told you, man.
So we had a good time in Petra. Oscar got to ride a camel, and that was fun. But, you know, we learned something today, and I wanted to do a whole live about it because it's, I think, very, very relevant to what's going on in this conflict, and it's something that we ought to be maybe talking about more in the media. So I'll just start out by saying that what we got to do today in Petra was something that almost nobody ever gets to do, and that is be one of the only people in Petra going around. Petra is a World Heritage Site. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world, and it is one of those places you should totally see before you die. And there are 1.5 to 3 million people every year who do just that, go to see Petra. But now, because of the war, the tourism is almost down to nothing. And I interviewed a couple of the shopkeepers, Bedouin. One of the things about Petra when you go there is there's tons of people trying to sell you things. These are, you know, I try not to get perturbed by this because everybody's got to make a living. And I understand that, and I get it that you're sales is hard. I was in sales for many years, and sales is very tough. And so you got to bump it with your trumpet in a way. You got to try to find your stick and find a way to get people's attention and market your products. And the way these Bedouins do it is they just sort of mob you by, trying to sell you things every 15 steps as you walk through Petra. The trick that I've learned is if you're going to buy something when you're there, buy something right away at the beginning, at least something small. And that way, everybody else who comes after you, you have a ready-made excuse. You can say, "I'm sorry, I bought something," and you can. What are they going to say? Well, you should buy something else from me. No, well, I already bought something. It kind of ends their sales pitch. And if you decide to buy something else, you can. But the thing is, there's probably 85 or 100 families in Petra alone who are reliant on selling stuff to the tourists. And now there's no tourists. So when somebody shows up that's a tourist, like me and Oscar, we just got mobbed today. And so I try not to be bugged by it because people need to make a living. But at the same time, it does detract from the experience overall. And so those people have been suffering tremendously because of this war. Again, there's usually 5,000 to 10,000 people a day who enter Petra. And now they're getting something like maybe 100, maybe 200 people a day total for 85 families or more. So it's very, very sad for them. Many of them have just gone right out of business. There are people who just literally walked away from their products, and I saw several booths that nobody there, nobody manning it, and you can tell nobody's been there for a while because everything's just sort of scattered around. All the products are just kind of laying around. They're not set up. They're not dusted. They're just kind of just in a big pile out there, as if they just abandoned the place. We talked to two different shopkeepers, and I've got those interviews here so that you can see them for yourself. One of the great things about this podcast is I can show people the full interview rather than just the little soundbite. So you can make up your own mind about how these guys feel. And I wanted to do this specifically today because it will give you a much better understanding of the real irony behind this war in Gaza. And that's what I want to get to after I show this to you. So first, let me show you the first one. Where's studio mode? And I think this is it. Nope, sorry, countdown. That's that one. Oh man, I was rushing to get these done.
So boring. I just wish
this one's gonna be too big too.
This is Abu Hashim, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And your
I gotta fix that, but
Restaurant.
that restaurant.
Invite the restaurant inside Petra.
Okay, so
there we go.
tell me about how bad it has gotten.
Okay, I gotta fix this. I was in a rush to get it set up, and I forgot to resize it. So I gotta take that off. Greetings from Israel, Whizzy Bang. So we've got Connie and Nathan both on tonight as moderators. And thank you, Kal-El of Krypton, for gifting Hot Zone memberships. I'm not sure how that works, but thank you very much. Hang on just a second. Let me just bear with me for just a second. I guess I can't fix that. Oh, there we go. No? No, I can't fix it in... Okay, you're just going to have to deal with it. Okay, check this out.
Okay, so this is Abu Hashim, right?
Yeah.
And you're manager of
Restaurant.
that restaurant.
Invite to restaurant.
Yeah.
Invite to restaurant inside Petra.
Okay, so tell me about how bad it has gotten since the war.
You know, in this moment, the world is making some in the Petra. You know, no tourists. All the tourists is afraid. Maybe in the Jordan we have war, but the Jordan it's not Palestine. It's far away. Well, Jordan it's very safe. Also, it's Petra it's very safe. Well, but we have many hotels is closed in this moment.
How many?
Like it's 28 hotels, maybe it's 30. Also, we have 300 person is working in the hotel, but now he's stay in the house, not work. We don't have work.
How about your employees?
In my place, before like I have 50 person who work with me, but this moment just 8.
8.
Just 8 person is work with me because no tourists.
Amazing. So, are Jordanians worried that Iran might attack them?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what people are worried about.
Yes,
maybe?
Iran, also the Israel, what he make it in the Gaza. And this is the problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Okay, so that gives you a sense for how Abu Hashim, the general manager of that restaurant in Petra, felt about how they're hurting because of the war. Now, the crazy thing is, 60% of the people in Jordan are Palestinians. But Jordan normally gets about a quarter of its GDP from tourism. And I mentioned last night that it's crazy because it shows you the complexity of this issue, because even though 60% of Jordanians are Palestinian, they're not all terrorists. They're still very friendly people, and friendlier than Israelis by a good bit. Just in general, right? I mean, I've met lots of very friendly Israelis for sure, but if you just took them on average, there's a lot less rancor from people in Jordan than there is in Israel. People don't honk at folks in Jordan like they do in Israel. That's for sure. So these people who live in Jordan, again, 60% of them are, they identify as Palestinians. And so because of that, they support their fellow Palestinians in Gaza, and they are not for Israel. And so the crazy thing is, and this is what I wanted to point out, they will tell you how terrible things are. They will tell you how much they're suffering because of this war, how they wish this war would hurry up and get over. And then you say, well, does it bother you that Hamas killed all those Israelis and started this war, which is hurting you so bad? And they'll go, and they cannot answer that. Or they could, but they won't. I can't find anyone. I've yet to find anybody that I've talked to in Jordan who will condemn what happened October 7th. And I quit asking them outright, will you condemn what happened October 7th? Because it makes them very, very angry to ask them that. So they're super friendly, And so if you get at it a different way, if you come at that question a different way, you'll find that they're still very cautious about answering a question that might say anything negative about Hamas. So I want to show you this next interview because look what happens at the end. When I ask him, wow, isn't it sad that don't you think that this attack on Israel actually ended up hurting Arabs more, Muslims more than it hurts the Israelis? And then he goes like, wait, can't talk about that. Okay, so I want you to see this.
October 7th. And
Well-
how many come now?
Well, before someone.
Okay, let's try this again. It looks like I had his audio
My
off.
name's Solomon.
Talk to me.
My name's Solomon. I'm from Petra. I work here since almost 10 years in my store here. We have no tourists since the problems, since the 7 Octobers. So hopefully more tourists came. Everybody is suffering here in the area because most of families are very independent of tourism.
Tell me how many people normally were here before October 7th and how many come now.
Well, before October 7th, it was like climbing up to monastery around 2,000 a day, 5,000 visiting Petra downstairs. And now we have almost like 50, 40 a day, sometimes 20, maybe more like downstairs, like 100, 150.
So how much could you make normally and how much can you make now? How much have you been making now?
You mean money?
Yeah.
Well, before we do make in the high season we do $200, $300 a day, sometimes $400 when you sell some silver, real stuff. Now we make like 10, 15 JD a day, and sometimes no money at all. Like sometimes 5, 6 days, no business.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's tell me about your family. You have to support.
Yeah, of course I have to pay money for the school, for my son. Have to pay the accommodations, foods, electricity, water, whatever. And sometimes you need to go outside with your family. So all those things are like cancelled.
This is the thing about October 7th that I've noticed. I think that the Palestinians, the Hamas, thought they would hurt Israel, and they did, but they hurt their Muslim brothers more because of all of the terrible economic.
So did you see that? Time out. Can't talk about that. And that ended the interview. I mean, he was like, no, can't talk about that. Please don't get me in trouble. This is the thing you find over and over and over again. It is a truth. It is a truth. It is just the truth that the Palestinians have suffered more in terms of quantity of deaths, economic hardship than the Israelis have. Now, I'm not diminishing at all the absolute horror that was visited on the Israelis on October 7th. Every one of those 1,300 lives that they've lost, and more now because of the soldiers that they've lost, was an absolute tragedy that shouldn't have happened, didn't have to happen, and was 100% at the fault of Hamas. Hamas caused this war to happen. And they had to have known that there would be a war. But I think maybe there were some unintended consequences from the war. I think maybe Hamas might not have thought about the fact that they would completely crush tourism in Egypt, in Jordan, probably Saudi Arabia to some extent, obviously in Israel. And I mean, look, the tourism has been terrible in Israel, but I think it's been worse in Jordan. That's debatable. And the Jordanians didn't do anything to deserve that, except you could say, well, look, if you're not going to condemn something like October 7th, then it's pretty hard to feel sorry for you if your tourism is crushed. And all of these people who were telling me today, oh, it's so bad, it's so bad, it's so bad, it's so bad. None of them was willing to, I mean, they would denounce the war. They would say this war is terrible, it needs to end. But they wouldn't go the step further and lay the culpability for this war where it belongs, at the feet of Hamas. And it could be that they are afraid of repercussions because, again, you live in a country that's 60% Palestinian. Most of them support the Palestinians, at least, if not outright Hamas. And it's really, really hard if you were to say, I condemn Hamas for what they did. But it's also kind of cowardly not to. So, you think about the fact that Jordan's tourism is 25% of its country's GDP, and they've been in the tank. You think about the fact that Egypt is even worse because of the reduction in trade through the Suez Canal. Jordan has had a reduction in their trade as well, and also they've seen a reduction in foreign investment in the last 10 months. Because who wants to invest in a part of the world that may be about to burn down? So they are being hurt. Now, Jordan gets a lot of money from the United States, as I mentioned yesterday, $1.5 billion a year. And that is so that basically to buy their neutrality and get them to, be on board with the peace. So they've got a peace deal with Israel, and they work hard to uphold that. That's a respectable thing. I have told a lot of people in Jordan that one of the reasons why Jordan is so safe is because they have a strong leader. The leadership here in Jordan is very strong. They don't broker any shenanigans. There have been attempts by Palestinian mobs here to march to the border crossing and cross into Israel, and the police force of Jordan stopped them. There have been mobs that tried to attack various embassies here in Amman, and the Jordanians stopped them from doing it. When Iran attacked Israel in April and fired missiles and rockets and drones over Jordan's airspace, Jordan shot them down. So they're putting up, you know what I mean? They're doing what an ally would do. At the same time, the leadership has made speeches condemning Israel's attacks on Gaza. You would also expect them to say that. You would expect the Queen of Jordan to make speeches in support of her own people, the Palestinians. So that's completely understandable. So if you want to hear more about just Jordan in general and whether or not I answered the question yesterday of whether or not they are a friend or a foe to the West. And spoiler alert, they're friendly. They're a friend to the West. And so it just shows that it's much more complex than just Palestinians bad, Israelis good. It's not like that. But it is without a doubt hurting. Hamas's actions on October 7th have dramatically hurt more Muslims than Jews. Now, again, I'm going to get Jews that are mad at me because I'm saying this, but it's just true. I mean, just quantitatively, more Muslims are suffering because of October 7th than Jews are. And that doesn't diminish one bit the horrors of what happened on October 7th or how wrong it was or how savage and brutal it was. But that very savagery and that very brutality were the catalyst for what took place next. And what took place next has hurt orders of magnitude more Palestinians around this region. Not just in Gaza, not just in Judea and Samaria, around the region, and here in Jordan too. So there are families that are going hungry tonight in southern Jordan because of what happened in the war. We know that for a fact. We heard from their parents today. There are families who are suffering, who have lost their businesses, their jobs, their homes. That last guy that I showed you told me that he has to purchase like $10,000 worth of product once a year, and then he pays it off monthly. And he buys his product in September. So last September, he bought $10,000 worth of product, and then October 7th happened, and he knew there's no way I'm going to be able to sell this product. So he called the company back where he gets the product and said, I need to send some of this back. And they said, no, you can't. You just have to pay for it. And so he's got this monthly bill due, and he can't make the bill. He said, for the last 5 days, he made, yesterday he made $1, and for the 5 days before that, he made nothing. Now, we made sure he made a little bit of money today so he could feed his kids. He was grateful for that. And some people, look, I could understand if you're one of those people, maybe in America or in Israel, who say, wow, this is the world's smallest record player playing My Heart Bleeds for you because I don't care. Those people, if they won't, you reap what you sow. There you go, that kind of thing. Okay, I understand that sentiment, but I want you to go get on a plane, come over here, go down to Petra, and look into the eyes of some of those little children that are standing on the street corner hungry because of what happened on October 7th. And I want you to spit in that kid's face and say, you reap what you sow, kid. See, I don't think that's a real productive. It's certainly not loving to say that to somebody who they didn't have anything to do with October 7th. You could certainly fault them for not having the intestinal fortitude to stand up to Hamas or to stand up and condemn Hamas, but you live in a society and a culture where virtually everybody around you supports them, and you try to be that one guy that sticks his head up, you're ending your life is what you're doing. So I wonder how many of us, I guess the real lesson from that I got out of what I learned today is that we may all be called to do something like this at some point. We may all find ourselves in a situation at some point where what we see going on around us is just plain wrong. Just wrong. But everybody is going along with it. Everybody is supporting it. And there's a real cost involved. If I stick my hand up and go, wait a minute, no, I don't support this. This is wrong. That real cost could be losing my job. It could be losing my livelihood. It could be losing my life, losing my freedom. But I've got to ask myself if I would be willing to stand up. All of you saying, well, you get what you reap what you sow. Okay, yeah, I get it. I understand. I wonder, though, if you would be strong enough to stand up against the mob if it came your turn to do that. I'm not saying that we should give them a pass necessarily. What I'm saying is it's going to take a lot of them to stand up and say what Hamas did was wrong and we don't want any part of it. The leadership, for its part, has been doing that to a great extent. They have couched it in the language of, well, Israel really started it. I mean, it was, if they wouldn't have had October 7th if Israel hadn't done this and if Israel hadn't done that. That's a cop-out, by the way. That's an absolute cop-out. Because if you're making the case that it's wrong for Israel to be bombing areas that might have civilians in them in Gaza, if you're making that case, but you won't denounce what happened on October 7th, then you're being incredibly intellectually dishonest. Because if killing babies is wrong, then killing babies is wrong. And if you're going to say it's wrong here, then you got to say it's wrong there. Now, when we talk about what's happening in Gaza, we keep having to point out that if there are babies dying in Gaza, it is the fault of one entity and one entity only, and that is Hamas. Israel is doing what it has to do, what it must do to protect its people. And if there wasn't a threat, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. They wouldn't need to. And the other option for them right now would be to stop defending their people, and would be for them to give up and allow themselves to be annihilated. And that's a non-starter for most people. So, thank you, KP. I appreciate that. We'll feed some people with that. There's a coterie of women in burqas who are crouched outside the border crossing almost all the time. Every time I cross the border into Jordan, there are these women who are crouched up against the wall just as you pull out of the border crossing once you've been released. And they are, obviously they're completely covered. Can't see their faces or anything. They're wearing the full ninja suit. And, they're out there begging. It's a nasty part of town, really dirty. It's where all the rental cars and mechanics and stuff are, and super hot. It's down by the Dead Sea. It's just insanely hot out there. And I remember the first time I crossed that border crossing. I don't know, this is maybe October sometime. I pulled out of the border crossing, and there was a little girl that was running from car to car. She was maybe 10 or 11 years old. She had, I don't know exactly what all the criteria are for when they have to go full ninja, but she wasn't wearing the full ninja suit. She just had a, dress on or whatever. And she had kind of wild, dirty hair. Her face was streaked with dirt because it's just so dusty there. I mean, all these cars going by and they're kicking up the dust, and you just can't help it. It just gets into everything. And she came up to the car window and looked in the window as I was already moving. And she had the most beautiful blue eyes, like blue-green eyes, like turquoise. And kind of a reddish, dusty reddish hair. She was a beautiful child, an absolutely beautiful child. And she just looked at me as I pulled away. And, she didn't get there in time to stop and ask me for, something. And I thought about that girl a lot in the weeks and months to come. And the next time that I crossed that border, I was with Connie and Amy. And I saw her again, just from afar, from a distance. I had actually gotten money out of my pocket, and I was going to give it to that girl if I saw her again. And I did see her again, but she was far away, and we couldn't get to her. If you stop right there, you're going to get just mobbed by these ladies. So it's really an unfortunate situation. I wonder, look, Hamas has made it clear. All their leadership, Yahya Sinwar has made it clear. That's a price he's willing to pay. If Palestinians suffer because of what they did, that's a price he's willing to pay. What pure evil. What pure evil for you to just say, well, I don't mind if other people suffer because of my actions, as long as I can accomplish my objectives. What an evil thing to say. And it is heartbreaking, for sure. So, with that in mind, quick update on what's going on in Israel. Speaking of suffering, there were more rocket attacks on Kiryat Shimona today, and some of them got through and so burned down some people's houses and things like that. There are still 60,000 Israelis that are not able to go home because of those continued bombardments. And as they continue, every day that they continue gets one day closer to an actual ground invasion of Lebanon. And this is seeming to stretch on and on and on. As far as peace talks go, they're starting new peace talks, trying to restart, reinvigorate the peace talks as they keep breaking down. But they're going to keep breaking down because both parties are not ready for a ceasefire. The United States, everything they do is making a ceasefire less likely, not more likely, because they're only putting pressure on Israel. And Israel has already said that they're willing to negotiate for a ceasefire. Hamas will not. Hamas has said, well, we'll accept what the United States put out, which is essentially Israel loses. It requires Israel to not accomplish any of its goals, but, they'll do that. But they haven't seriously been willing to negotiate in good faith at all yet. Israel has. So I'm sorry, I'm just looking at these comments. If the United States would allow Israel to do what it needs to do, they would get Hamas to a point where Hamas would be willing to actually come to the negotiating table. And I've said over and over again, I mean, you don't have to kill a bunch of people. You can't kill your way out of this problem. But you can exert strength militarily in a way that will bring Hamas to the table. And Israel just needs to say, well, we're going to go in and we're going to go house by house through Gaza, and we're going to just take down any house that has any military function. If there's a tunnel in the house, it comes down. If there's weapons in the house, it comes down. If there's booby traps in the house, it comes down. If you're shooting at us from that house, it comes down. If it belongs to somebody who shoots at us, it comes down. Just like that. And just continue on that. And look, we'll keep doing this until you release our hostages. Point, period, end of story. We will clear the house out. We'll make sure nobody's in it, and then we'll bring it down. And we'll just go house by house. We're going to start in the north and just work our way south. And we're going to start in the south and work our way north, and we're going to meet in the middle. So either you'll end up with a parking lot to live in, or you'll release our hostages. Take your pick. We'll do this all day. Something along those lines hopefully would put enough pressure on the people so that the people would put enough pressure on Hamas. But that's the kind of thing that would have to happen. I was expressing upset with cowardly words from our allies, and okay, yeah. Just looking for any questions. How many in southern Israel are out of their homes? I'm not sure right now, Patty, because the government has started to send the people in the south back home again. Like people that lived in Sderot, the government came and stopped paying their stipends, stopped paying for their hotels, and said, it's time for you to go back home now. A lot of people are not real happy about that in the south, even though the rocket fire coming out of Gaza has gone down to a trickle, much lower than it was even before October 7th. And the reason that people are upset about that is because they're not so worried about rockets, because they've got a safe room for that. They've got bunkers for that. What they're worried about is another incursion with 1,000 fighters coming across and just machine gunning people. That would be bad. And they haven't been allowed. I mean, why Israel has not gone on a massive campaign of arming its civilians, I don't know. I don't understand. You could put caveats on it. You could put requirements in there, get a background check, whatever. But why they haven't been just all full court press on arming every person in the country that is responsible enough to own a gun, I don't know. It seems to me that the tactic that Netanyahu was on before October 7th of let's make ourselves safer by making ourselves more vulnerable really has been proven not to work. And so if you want to make everybody safer, the best way to do it is to make them a lot less vulnerable by allowing them to protect themselves. You do see a lot of guns on the street in Israel, especially if there are children around. Most parents, it seems, will come out wearing a gun if they can, or many of them at least. But I'm still surprised that there aren't more people who are armed. And maybe they just don't want to be. Maybe they can't afford a gun. I don't know. I don't know exactly what's causing that. But whatever it is amazing to me that the government of Israel has not worked more to prepare civilians to protect themselves. In the north, it's a different thing. In the north, they are worried about incursions, but not to the extent they're worried about rockets and missiles. In the south now, they don't have to worry about rockets and missiles so much, as many of them are just worried about like home invasion type crime. And so there's a quick fix for that. Just start issuing gun permits. But they don't want to do that. Benjamin Netanyahu, at least, maybe not now, but at least at one point in his career, was staunchly anti-gun for civilians, to the point where he kind of poo-pooed the Second Amendment in his book. And some people have told me that he's moderated his position since, but I'm not, I don't know about that. From what I see in Israel, it doesn't appear that that has been moderated throughout the culture. But the people that, if I was out of my home living in a hotel room for 10 months and the government said, hey, the rockets fire has diminished to a very negligible point in the south, so you can go back home, I would be going back home. I probably wouldn't have left, to tell you the truth, because I just can't imagine being stuck in a hotel room with my entire family and not being able to work. That'd be crazy. I mean, I spend enough time in hotel rooms as it is. When I can work, and I wish I had my family with me more, but you know, if you had your choice, you'd want to go back to your work, you'd want to go back to your kids' schools, you'd want to go back to your church, your synagogue, and get on with your life. This has been like a 10.5 months, been like another COVID for them. And nobody wants to go back there. One of those in a lifetime is far more than enough. I'm sure you agree. So, all right, let's see here. Just want to look at. Okay, well, yeah, I'm sure the permit is hard to get in Israel. You know, in Israel, you have to prove that you have a reason, like you have a real threat against you in order to get a permit to own a gun. The fact that you live in the south near the border fence with Gaza apparently did not qualify you to get your permit, which is kind of mind-boggling now, especially after what happened. So, yeah, it's a little crazy. And there are some politicians who have made noises about changing those laws and those rules, but so far not. Okay? All right, so are there any other questions? If not, I'm going to get off of here, and I want to please just encourage you to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, go to chuckholton.com, and I'll put up more pictures of our trip to Petra today, and you can see, more of that beautiful place. What an incredible place Petra is. It was hot today. This was the least comfortable time I've been there, but it was still really amazing. The trick is just go very early in the morning and dress light. But and bring sunscreen, which I didn't do, and I am probably going to pay for that tomorrow. So, if you ever get a chance to go to Petra, you've got to take it. Definitely go to Petra. Would you consider allowing people to call in during some of your YouTube lives? Amy, that's a really cool idea. That's a really cool idea. Although we kind of have something like that right here. It's called the chat box. All you have to do is just type it in there, and everybody can see it. I know it would be kind of fun to do kind of a talk radio type thing, but I'm not sure how that technology would work, and I don't know if it would even be legal or what. But it's not a bad idea. That'd be kind of fun, actually. There are ways to do kind of a thing like this on Twitter where it's not video, it's audio, and so everybody's able to talk. And we could try that, or maybe we could do for our subscribers only. We'll do like a Zoom call sometime where everybody can get on the Zoom call and ask questions. Would you guys be interested in that if you're subscribers? Maybe we'll set something up like that. Other YouTubers do it? Okay. Well, I'll have to look into how that's done. That's cool. All right. Well, thank you, Snow White. I appreciate you picking up for One Tired Mama, who's probably doing something important today rather than watching me flap my gums. And thank you to my wife, Connie, and Nathan for being on and taking care of us here, making sure that the trolls stay away. I really appreciate all of you, and I'm going to get an early night tonight just because I got up early this morning and didn't get a lot of sleep last night. So I'm pretty tired. Going to Petra that'll take it out of you for sure, especially in the hot sun. So we did shoot some pretty amazing videos and some really funny videos, and I'm going to put those up over on chuckholton.com. So you can go over there and see them there. And yeah, I don't do Patreon. Well, I do have a Patreon. I keep telling people don't support me on Patreon because Patreon supports Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, and I don't. So I don't want to give them any money at all. So go to locals.com, or just go to chuckholton.locals.com. If you want to support me, you can do it there. Or just like and subscribe here on YouTube, okay? All right, thank you very much for watching. God bless you, and we will see you next time. Take care.